Always.
Good. Thanks, Benjamin.
Thank you. I'd like to call this Board of Education meeting for the District of Sturgeon Bay to session. Please rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. And then to do the roll call.
You bet. Commissioner Scholes and Commissioner Jenner-John are excused. Commissioner Wood,
Here.
Commissioner here, Commissioner Stefani,
Here.
Commissioner Cruz here. Commissioner Howard is not here. Commissioner here. Commissioner Spring.
Here.
Nice. Can we have a motion to adjust the agenda that as presented?
Make a motion to adopt the agenda as presented.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Cruz to adopt the agenda as presented. For the discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We have a motion. All right, so next we are down to the public comment section. Seeing no public, I will skip that and we'll go to the consent agenda.
We do have people in the building, but I think all our visitors and guests are probably in the gym for the girls' basketball summer league.
And as that sounds like a great
Sturgeon Bay girls in Algoma played, and now Gibraltar and Southern Door play.
That's
Wonderful.
outstanding. So now we're down to the consent agenda. And that, this is a little bit of reading here, so I'm just gonna go ahead and read the consent. We have, 0.1, approve the minutes from the regular meeting of May 17th, 2023. 0.2, approve May bills. 0.3, accept grants and donations. Door County Ace Hardware donated $100 to the elementary playground fund. Parent teacher group donated $800 to the Sunrise end of year picnic. John Powers donated $700 in siding to the tech department. Sean Wadier donated $70 to the high school special ed daily living skills classroom. The following organizations donated towards the 27 mountain bikes program. Door County Silent Sports donated over 40 bike helmets. Wisconsin Health and Physical Education Professional Association, WHPE, donated $2,000. Raybrook approved a grant for 27 mountain bikes, and DCMC donated $1,000. That's Door County Memorial Hospital.
Or 20 minutes.
Medical Center, sorry.
I think it used to go by.
Yeah, it's got that wrong. You think my wife works there, I should know that.
I was gonna
I was gonna
say.
say, should we tell her?
Yeah, maybe she probably knows. 0.4, approve resignations and retirements. Darlene Holfelder is retiring from her teacher associate position in the middle school effective at the end of the school year. Cole Massard has resigned from his position in maintenance. Joe Schreiner Schmidt is resigning from his teacher associate position in the middle school effective at the end of the school year. Ashley Bagneski is resigned from her teacher associate position at Sawyer School. Corey Powell has resigned from her library associate position in the middle school. Alexa Jenner-John has resigned from her associate position at Sawyer School. 0.5, approve second readings for the following employee handbook related items. Regarding the professional staff employee handbook, there was a minor update from last month to define health benefits to, in quotes, health and dental benefits to mirror the setup in the support staff handbook. Point A of this is the professional staff employee handbook. Point B is professional staff salary and supplemental pay guide. And point C, the support staff employee handbook.
I'll just note that as we've talked, the board can adapt those handbooks at any. We typically don't do that, right? This is the annual approval, but as you know, after the budget process officially wraps up state level, and Jake will talk about that tonight, we've got kind of that short list of professional staff items that we can address later this summer, technically even early next fall. And once we do that, then we'll just amend the handbook. We don't need to go through a long process. So if you're wondering like, oh, we'll approve these tonight as the second reading, but are we maybe gonna tweak a couple of things maybe? Yes, we can do that later and it's not a problem. And all those changes are really just theoretically additional things for folks governed by the professional staff handbook. So, nothing's being taken away per se, so there won't be a problem.
And isn't some of that just verbiage changes so that if one thing is changed that's why it's changed in multiple areas too, the staff and the.
Yeah, because the professional staff is really those two documents there,
Right.
so yeah, related to the teacher. So again, we're not acting on any of those other items tonight, but when we do that at some point in the next few months, back and tweak the handbook without a problem.
Point 6, approve fundraising calendars for the school year 2023-2024. This is done annually as part of our operational procedures and to prepare for the next school year. Contained in your packet is the fundraising calendars for the middle and high school. On a related note, the only elementary fundraiser is the parent teacher organization fall fundraiser in September and October. As elementary administrators have reviewed for us in the past, items such as cookie dough and candy may be sold but are not consumed at school. Additionally, the focus is on adults for something like a PTO fundraiser and different from some fundraisers at middle and high school levels. We already talked about the approvals of the handbook. I'll read it. Note approval of the various handbooks occurs annually to ensure smooth operations that proper updates are done, communicated to the board and available to the public. So following have point 7, approve Sturgeon Bay High School Student Parent Handbook. Point 8, approve Sturgeon Bay High School Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 9, approve TJ Walker Middle School Student Parent Handbook. Summary of the changes. Sub point. Study table. Students may be required to attend study table after school if they are failing in the progress report period. Students are required to attend to the quarter's end, but if they are still failing, they must continue to the next progress report. Repeated failure to attend study tables may result in a Saturday detention or an in-school suspension. Parents are responsible for making transportation arrangements and calling to excuse their child. Subpoint here 2, phone and other electronic device. First offense, parents pick up and kept in the principal's office during the day for 1 week. Second offense, principal will give consequence ranging from detention to suspension. Failure to turn over the device may lead to Saturday detention. Subpoint 3 here, racial and sexual harassment. This type of behavior will not be tolerated and complaints will be investigated. Consequences range from restorative practice to suspension and or expulsion. Point 10, approve TJ Walker Middle School Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 11, Elementary Student Parent Handbook. Point 12, approve Sunrise Elementary Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 13, approve Sawyer Elementary Student Parent Handbook. Point 14, approve Sawyer Elementary Faculty and Staff Handbook. Point 15, approve Special Education Policies and Procedures. Approval of the policies and procedures occurs annually to ensure smooth operations and that proper updates are done, communicated to the board and available to the public. We typically use the DPI sample guide. Point 16, approve at-risk plan. Approval of the plan occurs annually to ensure smooth operations and that proper updates are done, communicated to the board and available to the public. Point 17, approve early graduation requests. There are early graduation requests appropriately working their way through the established process and now come before the board for formal approval in alignment with our past practices. Those requests are shared separately from the board packet through.
Yeah, in the past, we've done the Google. I didn't have them in time to upload when I was running around. So from Principal Nervy and Mrs. Demise, we have a paper copy in front of you there. So again, just a quick note about that. It's not a case that you need to worry about going through each one. It's really a part of the standard protocol to show that, yes, the student and the family have worked with Counselor O'Hanley, Principal Nervy to bring those forward. So we're kind of giving a stamp of approval as we do with other items in this consent agenda to show, yes, they did work with the right high school people It really can't stop them from graduating early, but they're following our process. So that's the quick update there.
So, point 18, approve Wisconsin Association of School Boards, membership renewal. Enclosed in the meeting packet is a scanned copy of the WASBA renewal letter, as well as the report to the membership, a copy of the complimentary subscriptions and publications we receive as part of our membership, and the dues invoice. The annual dues would become $5,385 for the 2023-2024 school year. Just as a reference, last year they were $5,128. So everything moved up slightly. Point 19, approve overnight athletic trips for the 2023-2024 school year. Athletic Director Todd Michael has worked with our head coaches and Principal Nerby to assemble the overnight athletic trip request for this next school year. Obviously, a trip to the state could impact us, but that would be nothing new or a reason to be concerned. As stated in the past, the thinking is to have all our scheduled overnight athletic trips for the year approved at the same time at the start of the year in an organized fashion. It's appropriate to point out that special trips involve fundraising, costs to the student athlete family, and or supporting parent or community groups. The school district does not use tax dollars in the form of budget dollars to pay for additional or special overnight trips and the related cost, upgrades from a school bus to a coach bus, and other such costs that may be associated with some of these trips now or in the future. Here's a review of the trips submitted by Athletic Director Todd Michael. Ski and Snowboard Club, Mount Ashway in Bayfield. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Ashway. Hey. In Bayfield, January 23rd and 24th, 2024. Varsity boys soccer tournament at Prairie School in Racine, September 1st through 2nd of 2023. Varsity girls volleyball tournament at Kettle Moraine High School, September 8th and 9th, 2023. Varsity boys soccer tournament in Cedarburg High School, September 28th through 30th, 2023. And a varsity War on the Shore holiday wrestling tournament in UW Oshkosh, December 30th through 31st, 2023. There's nothing that brings in the new year better than War on the Shore, I guess.
It's been around, I'm a basketball guy, as you all know, but it's been around for years. It is a legendary wrestling holiday tournament. So yeah,
I just,
our wrestlers go to that.
I have to.
Yeah, that's good.
At the name, right?
That's
So that pretty healthy consent agenda, if I could get a motion to approve that, as presented, that'd be great.
I move to approve the consent agenda as presented, read, and written in the published agenda.
Perfect.
Second.
We have Commissioner Chisholm, seconded by Commissioner Haas, to approve the consent agenda as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It has passed. Now we are to operations. Point 1, we don't have anything needing attention from the consent. So we are to point 2, approve TJ Walker Middle School 8th grade special education teacher.
As you know, the hiring season really throughout the year, spring's pretty heavy, and now into that early summer, right, where the principals and directors want as many people approved as possible. That list after tonight's is getting fairly short, especially on the faculty side, and then there'll be some support staff a little later in the summer, which is normal. So here we go. All right, TJ Walker interview team recommends Abigail Bethke for the 8th grade special education teacher position vacancy. Ms. Bethke is a 2022 Vassar College graduate with a 3.83 grade point average, principal small and rights. This past year, Ms. Bethke worked at the middle school and the 7th grade teacher's aide. Several staff share that Ms. Bethke exudes characteristics such as caring, empathy, and she connects with her students. We also learned that she speaks Spanish. This summer, Ms. Bethke will begin her licensing through the American Boards program. So a motion to approve Abigail Bethke as an 8th grade special education teacher beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
With the motion to approve Abigail Bethke as an 8th grade special education teacher beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Woods, second Spricka to approve Abigail Betke as the 8th grade special education teacher beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are approved TJ Walker and Sturgeon Bay High School Spanish and ELL support teacher.
We recognize Donia for retiring, right, back in the March board meeting, and she's been around forever, and still be around in the community, but we know she's a huge loss, super lady. And so we knew we had the vacancy, and you've also heard from the team about how slowly but surely we're trying to grow the support for our English language learners and their families. So this is focusing on Spanish, but you see a little bit of support in here too. Back to the notes. So Principal Keith Nerby and Principal Mark Smullen recommend Shelley Stenzel for the high school Spanish and ELL support teacher. Ms. Stenzel is an Elon University graduate with a degree in Spanish and International Studies. Ms. Stenzel lived in Chile for 14 years and worked at a Montessori school. Currently, she's in an administrative assistant role at Sevastopol, supports ELL families there as well. Sevastopol's counselor Melissa Malcor shared that Ms. Stenzel often supports EL students both in the office and during her free time. Ms. Stenzel's former principal, Adam Baer, expressed that she has all the talent and passion to be a wonderful teacher. She's also been working very hard on obtaining her teacher's license. So a motion to approve Shelley Stenzel as a TJ Walker and Sturgeon Bay High School Spanish and ELL support teacher, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year, is recommended.
I'll make a motion to approve Shelley Stenzel as the TJ Walker and high school Spanish and ELL support teacher beginning with the 2023-2020.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Chisholm to approve Shelley Stenzel as the TJ Walker and high school Spanish and ELL support teacher beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Next, we're down to approve the high school, the Sturgeon Bay High School and Middle School special education teacher.
Director of Special Education Pupil Services, Lindsay Ferry, and High School Principal Nerby are pleased to recommend Janelle Krebsbach for the high school / middle school special education team. Ms. Krebsbach has earned her master's degree in education with a minor in special education. And she served as a special education teacher within the Green Bay Area Public School District and Kaukauna School Districts. Years. Prior to that, Ms. Krebsbach also provided special education support to students in Hiawatha, Hawaii. Washahawa. Pardon me. Mike, how do I say it? Hawaii.
Yeah, Hawaii.
She's excited to aloha. She's excited to join the team in Sturgeon Bay. The superintendent can't pronounce the proper Hawaiian town and create her own special education program for students with intellectual disabilities and autism. With Ms. Krebsbach's and passion for learners, she will bring positive energy and innovative ideas to our school community. Motion to approve Janelle Krebsbach as the high school / middle school special education beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
Move to approve Janelle Krebsbach as the high school, middle school special education teacher beginning 23-24 school year.
Second. Thanks, I agree.
Wait, so who is Cruz? Okay. Cruz, we have plenty of other opportunities, so this will be good.
There's a few more.
Yeah. Great. We have a motion by Commissioner Spricka, seconded by Commissioner Cruz to approve Janelle Krebsbach as the high school and middle school special education teacher beginning 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carried. 0.5, approve alternate school teacher.
We do not have someone to recommend for tonight. We know that sometimes when they're working on it, we put it on the agenda, so we're ready just in case. Lindsay continues to talk with candidates, and actually, as you shared in our admin meeting today, we have some pretty good hope on a couple of different key positions coming up. So I would imagine you'll see something from us in the July meeting.
Perfect. 0.6, approve a business education teacher.
Yes, thank you. Principal Nerby has assembled the little write-up you see in red, right? Because that was additional notes. We had the item on the agenda, but we wanted to now fill in what we have for the recommendation. So Mr. Stephen Schmidt has been an adjunct professor for almost 5 years, serving at both Lake and NWTC within their business departments. Before that, Stephen worked for AT&T for 20 years, rising through the ranks and leading their fiber optic business and business sales for the Midwest region. He earned a bachelor's degree in business and a master's degree in business administration from Lakeland College. Currently completing his K-12 teaching certification with an expected completion date of roughly 13 months out, July 2024. Mr. Schmidt brings with him a wealth of real-world experience, having spent over 20 years in the business field before switching over to higher education. Since then, he has taught both adults and high school students and college-level business classes, and his extensive knowledge in intro to business, business law, Microsoft, accounting, and marketing. He's excited to join the Sturgeon Bay High School team and can't wait to get started. During the interview process, Principal Irby clear that Mr. Schmidt has extensive knowledge and awareness of business curriculum and personal experience that he will be able to draw upon in his classroom. He was excited about the opportunity to work in Sturgeon Bay and valued the program that we do have in place. He's worked previously with dual credit earning classes and has a vast knowledge in partnering with surrounding colleges and universities. His previous business experience and teaching knowledge will serve our students and community positively as we move forward. We look forward to Stephen bringing his expertise and knowledge to our students here at Sturgeon Bay High School. A motion to approve the hiring of Stephen Schmidt at Sturgeon Bay High School as a business education teacher starting in the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve hiring Stephen Schmidt as Sturgeon Bay High School as a business education teacher starting in 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
I'm gonna take, I think I heard him. Mr. Wood, you're gonna be the second. Commissioner Hans made the initial motion. Commissioner Wood seconded to approve as a Sturgeon Bay High School business education teacher starting with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Oh, wait, opposed? Motion carried. 0.7, approve high school education.
Yes, thank you. Just checking with the team back there. We have not heard from another district who we anticipate approving someone this evening. That's why you see that second paragraph. And while we're approving Elena contingent on the official vacancy. So the person in the position who has been talking with us has verbally given us updates, etc. We anticipate being approved by another district tonight. So again, asking to approve the replacement Elena contingent on that. If for some reason that person wouldn't be approved by the other district, which is highly unlikely from everything we've been told, then technically Elena wouldn't be approved for that position, if that makes sense. All right, I'll continue with the notes. Director of Special Education Pupil Services, Lindsay Berry, and High School Principal Nerby are pleased to recommend Elena Tews for the special education position in the high school. Ms. Tews has earned her bachelor's degree in communication and will be seeking a graduate degree in social work and health and human services. Ms. Tews has served as a Sturgeon Bay teaching associate for this past year and has incredible experience providing support to students with disabilities. Both special education and regular education teachers within the high school are excited to bring her on board in this new capacity to continue their work together. And again, you see my notes as far as that goes. I don't need to reread that. So I'll jump to the motion to approve Elena Tews as a high school special education teacher contingent on that official notice of the vacancy, again, triggered by a different acceptance, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Elena Tews as the high school special education teacher contingent upon the official notice of the vacancy, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Wood, to approve Elena Tews as the high school special education teacher contingent upon the official notice of vacancy, beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Approve the 0.8, approve Sturgeon Bay High School office staff members.
As you know, with the shift, we have two people out in the front of the high school office. Mickey Rankin retired, as we've recognized in the past, and then Amy Lottbach is moving into the data specialist position held most recently by Casey Manders, previously by Mary Nichols. So we noticed it, so we're ready to approve both. Keith has for us this one recommendation right now. He's talked with several other candidates, so he's hopeful to have that other one officially for you next month. Back to the notes, Mrs. Lori Mellon has been employed as the middle school secretary in the past years before leaving back in 2022 for a full-time position over at Pro Products in the industrial park. While secretary at TJ Walker Middle School, she managed almost all aspects of their front office, attendance, student interaction, scheduling, many other administrative tasks that were needed. Lori possesses a positive attitude, a strong work ethic, deep knowledge of our school system and computer management software, and a willingness to learn high school specific expectations. Lori's previous supervisor said she was always dependable and professional. They said she was welcoming, good with families, and thorough in her work and interactions. In her current position at Pro Products, her supervisor said she was indeed dependable, professional, and always willing to learn and help improve efficiency. During the interview process, it was clear that Lori's experience would be welcome to the front office staff here at Sturgeon Bay High School. A strong understanding of programs, community, and functions of a high school, a seamless transition into this role. We look forward to Lori joining our team and bringing her vast experience to the position, or expertise, and experience to the position. Her disposition will serve students and staff at the high school well. Some of you maybe have saw her shadowing Mickey at graduation and a couple other events that we've had, like the code meeting and so forth, to get a better feel for all that. A motion to approve Lori Mellon at Sturgeon Bay High School as front office secretary beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Lori Mellon at Sturgeon Bay High School as front office secretary beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
That one you got. We have a motion by Commissioner Chisholm and a second by Commissioner Haas, second by Commissioner Chisholm to approve Lori Mellon as the Sturgeon Bay High School front office secretary beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. All those in favor, please, who's first? Further discussion? All those in favor, Steve, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are down to approving teacher associates .9. We have no action on .9A, so we are now to .9B.
Yes, we have a special education / alternative education teacher associate. You've heard about this program, partnership with the county and the Boys and Girls Club from Lindsay Ferry and others a number of times. So we're looking at approving Audrey Christie. Back to the notes. Director of Special Education and Pupil Services, Lindsay Ferry, is pleased to recommend Audrey Christie for teaching associate position in the alternative program for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Christie has previously worked for Homeland Security and as a correctional officer. More recently, she's been working with students with mental health and behavioral disorders in the Seymour School District. Ms. Christie is excited to bring her expertise and compassion to the students and help provide meaningful learning experiences for all of our students. Ms. Christie will serve as a behavioral lead in the district and will no doubt bring positive outcomes to our students across. Motion to approve Audrey Christie as a special education / alternative education teaching associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Audrey Christie as a special education / alternative education teaching associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Cruz to approve Audrey Christie as a special education alternative education teaching associate beginning with the 2023 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. So now we are down to .C, Lori Stoll, special education teacher associate.
Yes, thank you. Director of Special Education Pupil Services, Lindsay Ferry, and Principal Katie DeVillers are excited to welcome Laura Stolt to the Sawyer team for the 2023-2024 school year. Ms. Stolt was a fantastic substitute teaching associate during the past school year and has demonstrated commitment and skill working with students with disabilities. Ms. Stolt will be a great addition to our team over at Sawyer. A motion to approve Laura Stolt as a special education teaching associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Laura Stolt as a special education teacher associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Chisholm, second by Commissioner Spritka to approve Laura Laura Stolt as a special education teaching associate beginning with the 2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Motion carried. And now we are down to point D, Jennifer Burlow, special education teacher associate.
All right, I was looking at a version that stopped at C that I printed off. I'm caught up now. Nope, we're good. Thank you. Director of Special Education and Pupil Services, Lindsay Ferry, is excited to welcome Jennifer Burlow to the special education team as a teaching associate in the Sunrise Elementary ID and Autism program. Jennifer has earned a bachelor's degree in Health and Human Services and has experience teaching and assisting in Head Start programs as well as early childhood programs. Jennifer is excited to join the Sturgeon Bay School District and live and work in the district where her own children attend. With Jennifer's experience will no doubt bring great experience to that team. A motion to approve Jennifer Burlow as a special education teacher associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year is recommended.
I move to approve Jennifer Burlow as a special education teacher associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood to approve Jennifer Burlow as a special education teacher associate beginning with the 2023-2024 school year. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Point 10, we don't have anything there. That's we're still looking and we're still working on that. Point 11 is actually approve the preliminary 2023-2024 budget.
This manager holds for the benefit of anyone tracking this, and thank you for stressing that word, right, President Stein, this is preliminary. The board knows this, but I'll just hit a couple of high points because sometimes people get a little confused on this from the public that aren't familiar. So as we, as a board know, each October is when the board formally adopts the budget for the current fiscal year. And then of course, also that evening sets the tax levy for that next calendar year. However, we know in our own board policy, specifically 0155 committees, it states the following. The board as a whole shall act on a committee on school finance. Jumping ahead, point C, during certain months, you see April and May, committee receives estimates. Now I'm going to pause for a moment and know we don't just do the estimates those months, right? We have Jake giving us year-to-date information throughout, and then I'm going to hit this key sentence. The budget shall be presented to the board for preliminary approval in June, and then of course, final approval in October. So that next paragraph, right, I'm just reminding everyone the way we've operated, we see those different updates and projections. And then of course, we look at those a lot with the operational referendum cycle. So last paragraph, again, I'll turn it over to Jake in just a moment. But we've got some information. Obviously, it's a little extra active this year being a, year for the biennial state budget, right? We're all seeing news reports, things coming out of Madison, legislation being signed. No, everything isn't signed, sealed, and delivered yet. But we're getting a sense on what is happening. All right, so before I get ready to do that, I should say a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 2023-2024 is recommended. And we can be ready to go into additional notes from there, President Stefani.
In my notes with the budget, can't stress enough. This is based on current law and that's not even accurate anymore. In between when I wrote that and now we do qualify 100% for that extra $1,000 per pupil. It's a preliminary budget, it's not final, so I didn't update anything. This is so we can continue to spend, and we'll update you through the summer into October on changes.
I think it's, you and I were spoke the other day.
Yeah.
And I think it's, could say some kind of a general statement that it does not look bad for the district.
So, yeah, I think skipping ahead a little bit ahead on the state budget and my report, the second part of my report that I sent yesterday. My opinion, it's not a great budget for public K-12 education in Wisconsin. That said, as the school district of Sturgeon Bay, it is good. There's winners and losers. And it does answer a number of things for students across the states in public schools. As well as private schools, but it is a public school board. Right, it answers a number of things for probably most of the districts in the state, but there are a number that this is really not good for. But like I said, for Sturgeon Bay, focusing on us is a very good budget, I think. There's some details to work out. It appears as if, or we will get an extra 1,000 in revenue limit per pupil. And the details of how we'll do that is really the big piece that we'll need to figure out here in the next few months, taking into account equalization aid, what we owe on debt, our tax levy, et cetera, et cetera. My hope, my plan, and hope have really most of that hammered out, at least that levy, that revenue part, by the time we meet in August. It opens the door for us to do, potentially do a number of things, with some one-time costs as well as some ongoing costs, like those teacher things, that I kind of outlined in my first, update, that's in the package, so.
Thank you.
Looking at, again, the updated report you alluded to, Jake, that you sent out yesterday, if I'm keeping my email straight. So point number 2, the 2023 to 2025 state budget and how that impacts us is how you had that heading. And then really paragraph number 2 hits on this and touches on it a little bit more in paragraph 3 about that low revenue limit. I mean, that ceiling concept. We joked the other day, is it really the ceiling or is it the floor? That whole conversation. But the point is, rather than what many districts across the state will get the increase of $325 in year 1 and $325 in year 2, our number, because we're on that list of districts that were, capped in essence at a certain point, we would see an increase of theoretically then the $1,000 in year 1. We've heard a couple of different things. We believe we also get the 325, the 1,000 continues, if you will, and we get the 325 in year 2, but we're waiting on all the wording because, as you can imagine, when they're talking about things in Madison and they say yes, and certain part gets signed, sometimes the kind of the dotted i's and crossed t's take a little bit for them to figure out and zing our way. So that's kind of what's going on there. But that's why, as Jake says, there are going to be some districts that are certainly panicking and are. But because of that kind of $1,000 piece, that's where we are not going to be in the difficult straits that many will be.
I think a good context piece, a number that was put out by a number of districts across the state, figured out between the Legislative Fiscal Bureau and my colleagues, superintendents, other school boards, was this 1510. $1,510 per pupil is really what districts would need, taking into account the last state budget did not give us a per pupil increase. Inflation over those 2 years and expected inflation over these next 2 years, that 1510 piece is kind of what was asked as hey, this is what we would really need to keep up with inflation. For the school district to Sturgeon Bay, we're definitely getting that 1,000. I referenced then in paragraph 3 of what I sent out yesterday, or is that 4? Perhaps another 325. It does appear so. Initial questions on a WebEx that I wasn't able to be a part of, put on by but some colleagues of mine, business managers, were on June 9th, said, no, you can't do $1,000 for year 1 and 325 year 2. However, Dan was part of a WebEx last week where that was refuted, and some notes I read today from a webinar that took place during our admin meeting by WASB, Association of School Boards. Those notes do seem to imply that we get 1325. So we're getting up there towards that 1510 piece. I still, like I told Dan, I still want to hear somebody say, yes, you could take $1,000 of per pupil revenue limit in year one, and you would get the 325. I want somebody to hear that rather than try and read through some legal, right, stuff. So there you go. I think over the next few months, we'll prepare some stuff, different ways to potentially look at, especially I think the teaching staff compensation, the pieces we've kind of at the table. This definitely opens the door for that, I believe.
Yesterday, when we had new board member orientation, Jay kind of had the visual. We were talking with Wayne and Allison, and Mike was present too, about how our board has looked at things and tried to keep things fairly flat and steady, right? No, we don't want to increase that mill or tax rate. At the same time, you know, if it's going up and down all over, right, that sometimes makes our residents a little bit nervous. So as we've used some of those different funds to be able to do maintenance projects and so forth, right? Those are tools that we've had in recent years that we didn't have historically to help us accomplish that. So that's what Jake and I have been talking about, that he's going to prepare for us, so that over the next few months, we all have time to digest, especially once the state is saying, yeah, yes, this is officially what isn't happening. And then also talk about some of those teacher things. And we know the board, as always, is like, well, there's one-time costs and then there's ongoing costs, right? That Jake and I are guessing you're going to want to balance that. Okay, well, there's some one-time stuff we can do and some ongoing, but we can't do everything into ongoing because of what that'll do in the future. So we're aware, and we're getting a little bit of your pulse, so we can give you some options in the weeks and months ahead.
Good.
Maybe I'll just touch on from your, before we move on with this, Mike, from your report, Jake, the top of the next page touches on those mental health costs. We've all heard a lot about that. Good news, as Jake is here, and then maybe for anyone watching the recording, that instead of having to do the super thick grant packet that Lindsay Ferry held up, I know in our admin meeting today, that it was competitive grants for mental health services, that they're really going to have per pupil, right? So you see roughly that $30,000 the next couple of years, and then it'll shift to 12,000. Jake has some good thoughts about how that could fit with like some of this alternative and mental health programming you've heard about from elementary up through high school, and how that can help fund some of that. And then again, the whole, you know, how to fund special ed, click that percentage up a little bit, which again, is it a huge game changer? No, but it's helpful to our district and others, that there's plenty of special ed costs and not up to, you know, that higher 60% that they've been talking about, but at least slowly but surely increasing it. So those are positive things too.
Good. Again, can I have a motion to approve the preliminary budget for 2023-2024?
Yes, I'll make the motion to approve the preliminary budget for 2023-2024.
Second,
We have a motion by Commissioner Spica and seconded by Commissioner Jones to approve the preliminary budget for 2023-2024. Further discussion?
I appreciate yesterday's, you know, you guys taking like 3 hours, I think, you know, to kind of go over some details with us. I definitely have more questions to, you know, as we work through this, but I, you know, I'm gonna take through October, but there's like, you know, some detailed pieces that, you know, are just, they hang out there. So I mean, I'll bring those up, you know, separately, of course. And you know, just to see, because I don't see them specifically in these line items, but they're probably within a line item as a sub line item or something, you know, however you do that. But I just want to say, I appreciate yesterday's time and how much work one person does. Right, usually it's a whole staff, or maybe you have your own staff, I don't know.
I have a couple team members, 2.5 FTE, Kim Gordon, Ashley Lalizer, and then Jean Kugel is part-time. They do a tremendous job of keeping us afloat and making sure people get paid.
Well, I mean, just
Right,
the state up, you're driving to us, that I wouldn't go or know how to go find those yet.
Sure.
Right, so, you know, those are good to read and kind of understand from a 50,000 foot perspective. So anyway, you just want to call the vote, sorry.
No,
I appreciate it.
I second what Wayne said.
it's good. It's good. I like that ditto.
Yeah.
Oh, any further discussion on this item? All right, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carried. Point 12. much more benign. We're just approving the 2023-2024 meeting calendar.
You see that document, that one pager. In fact, we talked about that with board orientation yesterday. The rest of the board members are used to seeing that, right? I had drafted that for you in May, even before we officially set the official, I just used that twice in the same sentence, my apologies. Calendar, so you know what that would look like. So that's basically what you saw. These bullet points are where we tweak, right? I'm not gonna read each of these, but like the October board meeting, instead of being the third Wednesday, because it fits with this discussion, back to the fourth Wednesday because of that October 15th aid certification piece where the state officially tells us those things. We don't like the board packet to go out, so we're tracking and thinking, well, how can you be ready to approve the budget when it's not in the packet, right? We delay that to make sure not only that looks proper, but also Jake has time to get you information so you have time and we don't feel rushed on something that important. So other than that, the rest is self-explanatory. So it's my notes here. A motion to approve the board calendar for the 2023-2024 fiscal year is recommended.
Take it away.
I move to approve the board meeting calendar for the 2023-2024 fiscal year.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Commissioner Cruz, seconded by Commissioner Chisholm to approve the board meeting calendar for 2023-2024. Further discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carried. Point 13, approved technology department purchases.
And we're actually, when we prepared this, as you see, we thought we'd have something for you by now. The tech department has said, yes, we will have something, but why don't we do that in July? So we're no action needed, but we're gonna keep this because then it carries forward the next month nicely.
Perfect. And point 14, approved hot water heater for secondary campus.
Yeah, within the last few weeks, again, thanks to John Sullivan and Jake for pulling this together. Unfortunately, we've had a hot water heater breakdown at the middle and high school campus here. Thanks to the quick work of John Sullivan, we were able to pull together two sets of quotes. For comparison's sake, you see, we replaced another water heater on the secondary campus back in November of 2021 for a total of $18,495 on a year and a half. Although it's somewhat hard to believe, I admit, I read this twice when I first saw the notes. It actually got a hair cheaper with the two almost identical bids from August Sons for $18,205 and Eagle Mechanical, $18,327.41. We did get those in, so thanks to Sully for working on that. The administration is recommending the local contractor Eagle Mechanical for approval. As we've done in the past with different things, even though they're slightly more than the August Winter and Sons bid, as you see. So a motion to approve Eagle Mechanical's bid to replace the broken down water heater in the middle/high school as presented is recommended.
I move to approve Eagle Mechanical's bid to replace the broken down water heater in the middle school, high school.
Okay.
We have a motion by Commissioner Haas and seconded by Commissioner Wood to approve to have Eagle Mechanical bid to replace the broken down water heater in the middle school/high school as presented. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Great. Hey, good work on that, Jake, to get the bid.
That was John Sullivan.
Or John Sullivan. Good work, John Sullivan, out there, if you're watching. That's great. Point 15, approved district insurance. This is property liability and workman's comp.
I think we're about to the end of your actual action items for tonight, so that's kind of nice as we have informational and first readings here. So Jake's been working on this, so again, this is really, Jake assembled this. He met with an insurance rep just the other day to kind of bring this all together. So one main agenda items with you, which you see within the subpoints A, B, and C. All right, so again, as Jake writes, right, since his arrival close to 7 years ago, we've been working with M3 brokers for a variety of insurances, right? So property liability, workman's comp insurances. We also know that they have treated us well over the years we've worked with them. However, with specifically these property liability and workman's comp insurances, as opposed to the health insurance, right, we're a part of that consortium now, you hear about other times. Not all the insurance carriers actually work with all the brokers. So while M3 would periodically bid out our insurances, we weren't always necessarily able to get bids from all of the some other insurance companies in our area. So for this reason, Jake worked, and again, he told us about this back in January. He felt it was an appropriate year to reach out to some other companies as well as brokers. He also, back at the joint conference in January, some of us attended, and his WASBO conference just this spring. He met with Mike Walden from R&R Insurance, who was able to put together a number of quotes for us. And with those insurances, you'll see upon approval that those new insurances would still cover us, but save us about $20,000. For the following recommendations, please note that a switch in our brokers on property liability and workman's comp does not affect our relationship with M3 or Beck Krasinski and the other districts that are in our health insurance consortium. So moving on, so we've got number 15, letter A. So a motion to approve rights insurance, property and crime insurance quote is presented, noting that we would like Sawyer and our high school / middle school buildings insured at the higher rate. Jake notes, that's page 9 out of 15 is recommended. So I'll pause at this point, Mike.
Okay,
Move to approve right insurance and property and crime insurance quote as presented, knowing that we would like Sawyer and our high school / middle school buildings insured at the higher rate.
I'll second.
we have a motion by Commissioner Wood, seconded by Commissioner Haas to approve right insurance, property and crime insurance quote. Presented, noting that we would like Sawyer and our high school / middle school buildings insured at the higher rate. Page 9 of 15. Further discussion, and I'm going to start further discussion. I just want to clarify a point. Looking back, again, M3 has been really good with us for the health insurance
Yes.
piece, especially. I just want to note, are they different? Do you know the hierarchy of M3 as are they completely different silos? Is that why we're not gonna?
They are, and
I don't wanna rock
it's
the boat there.
clear. For example, the person at M3 that would generally talk to, not necessarily a representative, but their go-to person, is one that, would send us linebacker insurance coverages for our cooperative, right? As purchasing cooperative, they have linebacker insurance. We had always been the fiscal agent for the cooperative, the treasurer. Just this past month, this was not a decision maker, but as an example, as two silos, we received a linebacker coverage for quote for the entire cooperative door in Kewaunee County purchasing cooperative, which hasn't existed for over a year. So as an example of two different silos. Yeah.
I just didn't want to rock the boat on the health insurance end because that relation saved on record, saved the district a lot of money.
Yeah.
And really did, I think, a good job, right, Jake, so far?
Absolutely.
So I
Yeah.
don't think this is gonna affect that. I'm all for it, but I just wanted to at least bring it up.
In fairness, I think one of the M3 reps, that's a nice way of saying you got his attention because you didn't get a lot of responsiveness earlier, right? And he has reached out to you this week. And so we'll see if maybe they try to do a better job on the other side and maybe that pays off well for us on these insurances in the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, this is the kind of thing, I mean, we're only approving this for how long? You'll look at this again in what, how many years? 2?
I mean, we'll keep an eye on it. We'll continue to keep an eye on it.
Right,
Yeah.
but we bid this out periodically.
The brokers will bid it out
Yeah,
every year. They'll say, hey, because they'll have a pulse on who does what and say, hey, this new program from ABC Insurance, will probably fit well with what you're doing.
right,
Let's take a look.
Right.
They're good about that.
good. All right, good. So anybody else have any further? Okay, all those in favor, say aye. Aye. Opposed? All right, so that 15A is taken care of. Now we're on to 15B, which is a motion to approve CNC's community insurance and general liability, school board liability, cyber and auto liability insurance quote.
What you said. I don't think I can add to it. So
Yep.
we would recommend that, yes.
Yes. So we have a motion.
I move to approve CIC's general liability, school board, legal liability, cyber and auto liability insurance quote.
Second.
Okay. So Commissioner Wood made the motion, Commissioner Chisholm seconded to approve CNC's commercial community insurance rather, general liability, school board, legal liability, cyber and auto liability insurance quotes. Further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Now we are down to point C, which is a motion to approve SFM's quote for workers' compensation insurance.
I'll move to approve SFM's quote for workers' compensation insurance.
Second.
Perfect. Commissioner Wood made the motion. Cruz seconded it to approve SFM's quote for workers' compensation insurance. Further discussion? All of the aye. Opposed? Motion carried. Now we're down to point 16, which is an overnight choral trip to New York City for the 2024-2025 school year. This is an informational item. Again, look at the school year 2024-2025.
Yeah, initially we were gonna put this in consent, but we know consent should have pretty simple explanation to it, right? So in this case, what I chose to do kind of as a review for some, new for other board members, and just basically make you aware of it, right? So Avery Burns, our middle and high school choral teacher, who by all accounts is doing an excellent job and worked with Keith on all this information. They want to be able to plan ahead. Right, and so again, I'm just letting you know with a couple of these school board policy references that we don't need to approve this, the principal can. But in this day and age, since there might be some people, especially in the upper Midwest, that could view going to New York City almost like an international trip with different things that sometimes go on. As Keith and I talked about, I said, how about this? Let's just move it to the regular agenda. We don't need a long discussion. We don't need you to prove anything. But make you aware of it. It becomes part of the official kind of record, if you will. And so as Keith and Avery are working with the kids and families on anything and whatnot, it's one of those things where, okay, you as a board are at least aware. And if there are any other, questions or concerns, whether they pop up tonight or you want to reach out to Keith another time and he can assemble that information, that you have a chance to do that. So really that's the trip. Also a nice little review that, oh yeah, that does fit in the board policy with how that all works. And that's really kind of what we have for you. So again, kind of neat to see some of these trips coming back after all those challenges and so many things that weren't happening and kids that missed out on, whether it was the 8th grade DC trip there for a couple of years or something like this. I think it's pretty cool that Avery is plugging away working on that. Keith, is there anything I missed there that we wanted to make sure to highlight for the board that I just drew a blank on?
No, I think it was just more as you hear about fundraising that we just wanted to make sure you knew that was the thing.
Got it. Thanks, Keith.
Sounds really fun.
Yeah, that's great.
I don't know if they'll need chaperones or not, but you can probably express your interest, if so, to Principal Nerby and Ms. Burns as they get this all put together.
We'll have to tell Jess Holland that they're going to.
Yeah,
probably should.
any number of different things.
Point 17, achievement gap reduction, school board review. This is informational as well.
Yeah, you can read the notes there. So back in the day, we just had a little review of this. And again, it used to be known as SAGE. Now it's this AGR piece. In a nutshell, right? Some of our little kiddos as well. In fact, we were talking in the orientation yesterday, right? Some of our younger kids, like at Sawyer, they don't take the required state testing, but there's still an obligation of sorts that they're making, right? Are they making progress in reading and math through our own local assessments and screeners? And so you kind of mix that of Sturgeon Bay being involved in SAGE, right? It's been years since any new, districts were allowed in. We've continued to be a part of that, and there is a financial benefit to us doing. Now there's a mid-year update, if you will, that's informational. We did that this year. That's probably only been going on for 3 or 4 years. And there's the end of the year. It's officially part of our agenda. You have the chance to officially be aware of that information. And really that's fulfilling our requirement, if you will, with the state. So that's why it's an informational item. We don't need you to do anything else with that.
Perfect. So the next point here, we have board policy first reading. So this one, we're gonna make sure Danny, you all hydrated up.
Ready.
All right, here we go.
All right, I'm gonna tonight not read too much of what's in here, but with Ann's help, who's doing a great job helping us catch up, we really appreciate that. Kind of add a few different nuggets to put with those few sentences on each item. So that's kind of how I'm gonna run at it tonight. So policy 0161 parliamentary authority. Basically, we didn't accept the option about appointment of a parliamentarian and all that business, which means we went with option 2, and that's why you see it that way in your packet. Letter B, you see 1213, 3213, 4213, student supervision and welfare. In essence, this really allows for staff to be able to post photos of their own children or relatives on social media, where normally, right, it's a little bit tricky as far as, while most families are okay with it, there are a few families, especially if some of our younger kids and sometimes students with special needs where the family doesn't want that, which we respect. Next up, letter C, policy 1421, 3121, 4121 around criminal history record check and employee self-reporting requirement. Basically, you see, there were some things in motion we were already going to put in place for this next school year. In essence, we're adding to the videos and the little checkoffs that all of our staff, myself included, have to do in August around this. And then as Ann has also done a nice job of capturing for us, really minor traffic offenses. It's like, all right, there's a reference to really what's involved in there as opposed to something that's more major. So we have a system. You don't have to do anything with that. We have that in August as staff come back about all the different things that they watch and check off, that if they have something qualifying, they're supposed to let us know. All right. Letter D, policy 2260.02, dealing with services for bilingual students and English learners. Again, you've heard a variety of things. Both Principal Smullen, who's done a lot with our EL stuff in recent years, as well as Director Ferry, have had a chance to look at this and make sure that it lines with what we're doing. Next, policy 2416, student privacy and parental access information. This is a policy that existed, but wasn't one we actually had previously. So it's really in the revisions, even though we're saying this is, so every once in a while that does happen as a review for some of you and new to others. Not a bad thing, but as we went through the process, 2 years before I was hired, we didn't take every policy. Times we do add some if there's a good revision and we didn't have the policy. That's what you see there. Letter F, policy 2460.03, independent evaluation, independent educational evaluation, excuse me. Lindsay has taken a look at this to make sure that aligns with our practices. So there's the update. Letter G, policy 2522, library and media centers. There's a couple of different policies that kind of come up here. Holly Sully has done a very nice job over the last couple of years. So this summer, she's met with Ann and with me to make sure that everything in the board policy matches our practice. But really, Holly was out in front of this 2 years ago to make sure that our process, if someone has a concern about a book, whether we're talking about in the library or in the classroom, that all fits. We've all read articles about that, and there are different groups online that give residents lists of books. Really, we have a good process that aligns with a form that a person needs to, okay, if they have a concern, what are the concerns? And we work that through with the teacher, the principal, the librarian, depending on the situation. And it doesn't just jump to the school board or to me when we're like, well, what's going on? What's the concern? Who's even talking about it? So we have a nice process. Holly's been very good with that. Some of that overlaps with this policy. Moving along, letter H, policy 2701, school performance and state accountability report cards. We have verified that with the principals that yes, we do share this information in our fall newsletters to ensure that we are in compliance. Letter I, policy 312004 and 412004, employment of substitutes. Basically, some districts, we have not gone the route of hiring full-time subs. A larger district might, and then just assign them each day where we go. The concept's nice, but obviously, that's quite a cost. And some days we don't always need that. So you see some of the updates with that. That's why we've handled this the way we have. Letter J, 5113 open enrollment program. We have had Casey Manders, again, who I mentioned earlier, who's been in the data position, as well as Amy Lautenbach, who did some of that work in another district before and is taking over that position for us this summer. Take a look just to make sure everything lines up and we're good to go. Letter K, policy 5340, student accidents, illness, concussion. good news, we are already aligned with this based on the work we're doing, following the WIA guidelines and also through the athletic training program that DCMC provides to us. So Athletic Director Todd Michael has taken a look at this, as has our sports trainer Alyssa Lee, and confirmed that we are good to go. Next up, policy 55-1701, bullying. The notification process really is in our handbooks. So that's how we work it through in handbooks, as opposed to telling people notification on all these that, again, they say, why are you even telling me this, right? We work through our handbooks there. Letter M 74-4001, video surveillance, electronic monitoring. All right, we don't have at this time audio as a part of, so we have security cameras, around buildings and campus, but we don't record what's going on. Every now and again, you actually hear a news story where there's some concerns about that, because right in the state of Wisconsin, if you're going to record someone, typically you need to tell them. So we are good to go. We don't have an issue with audios, and we're not checking out footage either, so we don't have to worry about that log piece. We work with law enforcement, and then from there, if someone else has a need to see that, we work with law enforcement to make that happen. Policy 8146, notification of educational options. Okay, really new to us. So with the revised policy, like the one I mentioned up above, we didn't have it before, but sometimes they do some kind of tweaking and renumbering and so forth. And so it seemed appropriate to pull active policies. Letter O, policy 8500, food service. We hear from but this one comes up pretty regularly. Jenny Spoody took a look, made some very specific district related updates to this policy. Again, we know Jenny does a wonderful job, and she has worked with us on the policy to make sure everything lines up. Next up, letter P, policy 8740, protection of district funds. Another one of those that was revised, but is technically new to us. Jake has taken a look and also conferred with our insurance carriers that yes, this indeed will line up properly. Policy 9130, public requests, suggestions, or complaints. Well, we would never have a complaint, so do we even need, oh, wait, I digress. So kind of like I mentioned earlier with the work Holly Sully was doing for us, we have a form, we have a process, and really what this is pointing out is, yes, there is a difference between a library material or book question and a classroom material, or we follow the same basic process, but they separated those out. I was just kind of thinking here after reading through this that, in my 9 years, have we had a book concern? Early on, we had something pop up with a high school class, I think it was sophomore English, where a parent was concerned about one of the books. Worked with the family and with then Principal Nickel and said, well, if there's a concern about this book, no problem. I'll provide an alternate book to do the assignment. The child/family were able to pick an alternate from an acceptable list with the teacher, and we were good to go. So that's the only one I could think of there. But again, we do have a process if and when we need it. Moving back along here. Oh yeah, that's the end of that particular list. And now these are just technical changes. So I'm not going to read all this. I'm just going to point out, okay, with those technical changes, right, it's only a single reading that something was updated. So we see policy 0165.2, a change of regular meetings. Again, I like grammatical corrections and they made them for us. Isn't that wonderful? Under policy 0171.1, president, again, some consistent with the state statute reference. Policy 2260, non-discrimination. Again, there's a designation with investigator under certain things. So again, thankfully, but we're ready just in case. Policy 2330, homework. Well, it is summertime, so students are happy to have a break from this, but you see this whole piece about we don't have to have a whole set of administrative guidelines on homework. It's like, why in the world would we do that? Policy 2340, district sponsored trips. The term administration being used as part of the definitions. Policy 2370, educational options. Again, you see youth apprenticeship added as one of the references in there, right? We've all heard about youth apprenticeship quite a bit in the last year or two. Moving along, sorry, I'm shifting from that.
So did we make the changes in green?
The green changes are recommended by Neola.
Oh, okay. And the crossouts and the pigs were from them as well?
As well as like on the food service policy, you'll see those edits as just like a bolded insert.
Yeah, okay.
But usually, for a great question, because I don't think we talked about this yesterday with Neola policy. We use the track change feature typically, which is where, right, the color and all the lining. Once in a while, it'll come up as two different colors and, and sometimes it doesn't. But yeah, in essence, we work with Neola and like we talked about yesterday, and then I don't think I mentioned our rep, her first name is Jean. She's Jean Bourne. She's a retired superintendent. When a question comes up, rather than have to call, we don't have to call Neola corporate, in Ohio or something. You can get a hold of Jean right here in Northeast Wisconsin and she'll say, oh, this is what I can tell you, or let me check. She sometimes also tells us, oh, based on the options, most of my districts are picking this. So you probably want to think about this and that's why it's a fit, but a few are picking this. So anyway, Jean is our person, and before Jean, it was about Bob Worley, or Neola Bob, as I often call him, right? And he would work with us. So we actually have a person that we can get on the phone or do Zoom meetings with and whatnot. So good
I was
question.
going to say, Gene isn't, there's another nickname you have.
Yeah, Neola Bob. Yeah, Bob retired from the
Now it's Gene.
Neola work. So Gene has picked up his clients, et cetera. All right, back to what am I at? 2430, letter G, district sponsored clubs and activities. We see district sponsored as far as terminology there. 4340 grievance procedure and other grammatical correction. 3440, 4440 under job related. We see a technical correction on a legal citation and some options. 5335 care of students with chronic health conditions. We see some names added dealing with other policies. 5460 children at risk of not graduating, grammatical correction, as well as a legal reference correction. 5512 use of tobacco or nicotine. The term possess in quotes as far as another item on the prohibited activities. 5513 care of district property. Removed a particular sentence, and then there was a cross-reference with 5440, so they were correcting that. Policy 6146 post-issuance tax exempt bond compliance. There was a reference removed to administrative guidelines since we don't need an active guideline there. 6520 payroll deductions, some legal references. 743 remote access to the district network. Again, some irrelevant language was removed. And finally, policy 8330 student records. We see a clarification with some federal terminology and Wisconsin statutory terminology. That's all I have for you tonight.
Nice. Now we are down to reports. Do we have a legislative? So, CISA report from anybody? Committees or seminars? Anybody was to? Administrative reports, we just have the business manager report, which did you have anything to add, Jake?
Talked through most of what I was gonna hit on earlier. Yeah.
Community engagement, this will be back to Dan, I believe.
Yeah, I don't have anything I'm going to add to that right now. Gene, Stephen, and a team of some folks were involved in that Rock the Dock event, which was a big hit. You're going to hear about more numbers on that. And Jane's also going to pay us a visit probably a couple of times in fall. Again, we were going to bring her in and talk to you about some different things and newsletters in May. Obviously, the board vacancy took precedence, so that was more important at this point. But yeah, Jane's been in contact, and again, thanks to a number of volunteers, that's in my report as well, that made that happen. It was a beautiful day, and hopefully the start of a cool tradition. So that was nice.
Excellent. So we are down to a move. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
Let me just hit on something from
Cool.
my report. I'm not going to read anything from my report.
All right.
But my report referenced a couple of attachments. So there was one, which again, we're not asking for any, it's just kind of feeding you information from Brian Nickel with the Donovan Group, right? If we want to, as we talk potentially probably about newsletters, all my advice would be is let's not just think about newsletters. Again, we'll probably talk about this in the fall. Do we want to talk about a communication plan or how some of the things we are doing, does that still fit our needs? Do we need to look at some changes? He and the firm that he has started working, he's a former teacher, would be someone not too far away that we could talk to if we want that type of help. So again, no obligation. I'm not signing anything. I just wanted to kind of slide that to you as the board has talked about community engagement things in the past. The last item I had added was something from Craig Siegel. I made reference to it in general terms a month ago, and now he slid me that as far as sponsorship and how that might fit with some different, whether it's in the future fundraising for the playgrounds, or this kind of complex idea, you know, athletic complex with different people from the city, the county, you know, all these different entities, Raybrook, et cetera, you know, how might that fit? So that was that sample, which then leads me to the last item. I think it was 2 days ago. Craig Siegel popped in after a meeting with some of those folks, those leaders, kind of that steering committee, popped in by Jake and me and said they now, and this came up actually, Mike, when you and I were at that meeting at City Hall too, doing a feasibility. And so their plan as the steering committee is to approach 6 entities. We would be one of the 6. There was a feasibility total price tag of, I think it was just shy of 90,000, right? 89 and change. And so their plan is to approach the different entities and probably ask for around $15,000 an entity to say, hey, we're going to do this and we do it right. You know, is the data there to support doing this? How are districts, or not districts, how are communities supervising this, funding this, et cetera? So you think of like Destination Door County, right, with the room tax piece, and if there would be sports tourism, obviously they're interested. Asking the board to approve anything right now, but that'll come to us potentially as early as next month. Again, the city of Sturgeon Bay plans to support it as well. So anyway, that just popped up this week. I didn't put that in writing. You'll hear more about that, and I just wanted to kind of keep you apprised of that as that group continues to work on our behalf. That's it.
So can I have a motion to adjourn?
I move we adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Wood, second by Commissioner Chisholm to adjourn. Further discussion, hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And opposed, nobody. Here we go. Meeting adjourned.
Excellent. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I'm sure you know this, and a couple of, or several of you talked to her yesterday. Obviously, Tina, Jenner, John, and Derek and the family really appreciate all the well wishes, and they know we're thinking of them and praying for them. And Tina and I, going through the line, we're talking a little bit of school board business last night.
Really?
Is what needs to, just because
That's Tina.
because that's Tina. That's right. Well, thanks, Jen. We're good with the layout. Oh, yeah. Yeah, a little like, it was free all along, you know.